Hello everybody, today we're going to be talking about the new Pokemon added in Pokemon Legends Arceus and how good they will be in competitive Pokemon when they are allowed. This is probably obvious, but this video is going to have spoilers in it, so if you don't want spoilers, click off of the video now or save it for later, whatever. We're going to be going through Cerebi, which has all the details on these Pokemon that are in the games available. It's worth noting that, of course, this isn't going to be a perfect estimation because we don't know their updated move pools, with the like how it would work in a traditional Pokemon game. We also don't know how some of these new moves added in Legends Arceus translate into a traditional Pokemon game, but I think we have enough information to make a pretty educated guess, which is my goal with this video today. Before we jump into the specifics, I would like to ask you to subscribe. We are almost at 500,000 subscribers. Well, we're getting close to 500,000 subscribers, I should say. We will be doing a huge project for that. As a thank you to you all for the support when we hit 500,000, which is, I'll be ranking every single type combination in Pokemon that currently exists. It's over 100 type combinations. It's going to be a ton of work, but I wanted to do something big to say thank you for all the support. So if you want to support the channel, if you care about competitive Pokemon, if you just want to watch more Legends Arceus content, I really would appreciate you subscribing. Anyway, without further ado, let's jump into Weirdeer. So Weirdeer has interesting typing. I think that's the first thing worth noting. It is normal and psychic. This is interesting because it is a kind of a hybrid, It basically is minor changes to both the normal type and the psychic type. So normal loses its weakness to fighting type, and in exchange gets its weakness to dark. And psychic loses its weakness to ghost in exchange for an immunity, which is interesting, but it also loses its resistance to fighting. So it's an interesting combination. If this had been before Sword and Shield, I probably would have told you I don't think this combination is very good. But after seeing Indeedee with this combination, it actually has been quite nice on a kind of a bulky supportive Pokemon, and so I think that it's actually not inherently bad. Next thing we want to look at is the stats. It actually has pretty decent stats. Base 103 HP is pretty good, to be honest. That's pretty high base stat when it comes to HP. Pretty decent attack and special attack. 105 is totally fine. And then I would say below average defenses, but overall I would say it's pretty average given the HP. One of the weaknesses here is that it does only have a base 65 speed stat, which is not very fast at all. To tell you the truth, and so with that in mind, it really depends on a lot of other factors. So the stats basically give it a chance, but it's not inherently overpowered or anything like that. So the next thing we want to look at is the abilities. It actually has 3 good abilities, Intimidate being the best. In terms of the things that are both common and strong, Intimidate is probably the best ability in VGC. It lowers both opponents' attacks by 1 stage, and it's just a generally really good utility ability. So that's really good. Frisk is also nice in certain scenarios. I don't think you'd ever run it over Intimidate, but it is nice because in doubles, in competitive Pokemon, you'll actually reveal both your opponent's held items, which, I remember when Dusclops was really good, it would have Frisk, and it would, you'd immediately know half the items in your opponent's team because you would lead off with it a lot of the time, and with that, you would immediately know half their items because it would reveal 2 out of 4. And then last but not least, Sap Sipper is a solid ability. I think Weirdeer, if Pokemon could have all 3 of their abilities, Weirdeer would be super strong, I think, because all 3 of these are good. I mean, getting an immunity to grass is nice, and then also getting an attack boost is good as well. Next, let's look at the move pool. We see Psyshield Bash, which 70 base power, 90 accuracy. It's worth noting that in a traditional Pokemon game, base power seems to have been tuned down here a bit. Double Edge is normally 120 base power, for example. So this might be an 80 or 90 base power move. It's definitely interesting. It's a psychic type attack, which is cool. Double Edge is a really nice normal type, the best probably physical normal type attack in the game that is currently exists since Rest is gone, since Return is gone. So solid stab options there. And then in terms of coverage, it gets high horsepower, Mega Horn, and that's just about it. The thing that's worth noting is that if we look at Stantler, I want to look at cool. So Stantler, same abilities as Stantler, interestingly enough. And then what's interesting about Stantler is that it gets a couple interesting coverage moves. So I didn't even know it got Lunge. That's a big deal. I don't think Lunge is in Legends Arceus, so that's interesting. Imprison is pretty niche, but can be strong under the right conditions. It also gets Skill Swap. So I've talked about this, and Trick Room. So I've talked about this before, but one thing that's people sometimes ask me about Stantler, and the one thing that Stantler has that is unique, even when Stantler, if we look at its stats, you can see very clearly it's not good. But the thing about Stantler that's interesting is that it is the only user of Intimidate and Skill Swap. So that's relevant because there are abilities Competitive and Defiant which give your Pokemon a stat boost, or they reverse If your opponent, if your Pokemon gets a stat drop, they will compensate by getting either a 2-stage boost to attack or a 2-stage boost to special attack. What's interesting about Stantler is that it's the only skill swap and intimidate user in the game, or it was last time I checked at least. And so what that means is that normally you're not able to activate your own competitive or Defiant. If you use Bulldoze or you try and side target yourself with Tail Whip or whatever, it's not going to work. It's not. You're only going to lower your stats. You're not going to get the boost. The exception to that is my cat is being super crazy. The exception to that is if you use Skill Swap Intimidate, you will activate your own boost. So that's kind of a niche. Any Pokemon with Trick Room and Intimidate is going to be viable, I think. So I think Weirdier, under the right conditions, could totally be good. Assuming you get some of these support moves that Stantler gets, between Imprison, Trick Room, and Skill Swap, I think it could absolutely be good under the right conditions, especially in a more limited format. So Weirdier get to pass from me. How many do I need to go through, by the way? Okay, for a bit. Clevor. Clevor is interesting. So this is a split path evolution for Scyther. With the ability Swarm, Sheer Force, and Steadfast. So the first thing I want to talk about is the typing. Bug and Rock, this is Crustl's typing. There's something else. Let me just look really quick. I'm missing something obvious. There's another Pokemon that gets this that I think is more useful than Crustle. Shuckle, obviously. But I think there's something... Armaldo. I think there's something else that I'm forgetting about. Crustle... I guess not. Okay. Well, there's a couple Pokemon with this typing. It's not bad typing. I would say it's okay. Bug and Rock are both kind of like iffy typings, but there's a couple of nice things about this. Number one, Rock typing is good because it gets a special defense boost in Sand, which can be really nice. And it also has good stab options like Rock Slide, and it's nice to hit like Fire and Flying types, which is good. This is also a Rock type that isn't weak to ground, which is nice, and it's a Bug type that's not weak to Flying. So both those things are good. In terms of abilities, probably Sheer Force is going to be your most common one because it has the most general usefulness, but Steadfast and Swarm is pretty inconsistent, but Steadfast can be useful. I think Steadfast would be way better if it replaced a Flinch with a speed boost, but they both have use. Sheer Force is the best though, in my opinion. Looking at the stats, so it has really high base attack. 135 is super solid. Decent HP, good defense, below average special defense. I'm sorry, but I don't know what's going on outside. It sounds like a leaf blower, but I do apologize for that. It's frustrating because it only starts when I start recording. And then 85 speed, which is a bit slow. So the speed is a little iffy. Let's see here. In terms of move pools, Stealth Rock is an offensive move in this game with 40 base power. Gets X-Scissor, Psycho Cut. X-Scissor also has a heightened crit rate in this game, which is interesting given I talked about that. Rock Slide. Air Slash, Swords Dance. Let's see what else here. Silver Wind. Okay, so of course we don't really know exactly about the move pool. Let's see if Scyther gets anything interesting here. That could be useful here. I think that we already know about Swords Dance, Agility, the screens, U-Turn, Air Slash, Brutal Swing, Baton Pass, Bug Buzz, X-Scissor. Okay, so for this Pokemon, I think the real thing that's hurting it is the speed. I was curious. I thought Scyther might get Tailwind. It might depend on the game. I'm pretty sure in some games Scyther gets Tailwind and in some games it doesn't. So with Clevor, I think there's a couple things you can do. It gets Close Combat. I think that Cleaver is a decent user of both Choice items and Assault Vest items because it has high base attack. So Choice Band obviously gives you a big increase in power. Hey, don't eat that. He's trying to get into trouble. Choice Scarf also lets you outspeed Pokemon, especially in a slower metagame, so I think that could be good. Choice Scarf with like Rock Slide, U-Turn, Close Combat, and then a coverage move depending on the format could be good, I think. And so I think that has value. I think Choice Band can be pretty strong as well because you get Choice Band, Sheer Force, Rock Slide, which is a spread move, or Choice Band, Sheer Force, maybe a bug move of choice. I don't know, Lunge, or if X's or keeps its heightened crit rate, whatever. And then Assault Vest just to allow yourself to be bulky, especially like useful in Sand. A very, very bulky rock type. But overall, I think that just like Weirder, the thing that hurts Cleaver the most is its low base speed stat. The rest of the stats are fine, but the low base speed stat makes it pretty difficult. And that's especially relevant because unlike Weirder, who has Trick Room, Clevor, if it doesn't get access to Tailwind, is gonna, I think, have a hard time. Oh yeah, the other thing is if this thing gets Tailwind, you could totally run Tailwind on it, right? Tailwind, Rock Slide, Bug Move, Protect. That's a super solid set. You can do the same thing with Swords Dance, Tailwind, Swords Dance, Protect, Bug Move, Rock Move. But the thing is, because you're so slow and Bug and Rock don't have priority moves that are widely accessible, you're probably just gonna be not in great shape, to say the least. By which I mean, how do I say this? Like, you can get a Swords Dance up, but it doesn't matter if you get outsped and KO'd. And you don't have such exceptional bulk that you're likely to stick around for forever. So, yeah, that's Clevor. Let's talk about Ursaluna, which is the evolution of Ursaring. What is this? My cat is really getting into trouble. I can hear him like clawing my bed. Let's talk about the typing first. Ground and normal is interesting. This isn't unique typing, right? What is the other Pokemon with this? Is this unique typing? I don't remember from the... No, it can't be unique. I didn't cover it in the other video. Diggersby, yeah. So, normal basically doesn't really improve a lot of types, but it can add another dimension to them. So basically normal is nice because it gives you an immunity to ghost, you get a weakness to fighting, and then you get more stab coverage moves. So, I think normal ground is actually pretty decent because the normal is a pretty good move at hitting a lot of Pokemon for neutral, and some of the types it resists are like Ghost, which ground hits for neutral, Steel, which ground hits for super effective, Rock, which ground hits for super effective. So it's actually surprisingly good offensive type coverage because, yeah, and it also works the other way, right? Like the Pokemon that ground can hit, Flying and Grass and Bug, normal all hits for neutral. So offensively, it's actually a pretty good type coverage, type combination. Let's look at the stats next, which I think are actually quite impressive. Super high base HP, super high attack, good defense, bad special defense, and then, or like average special defense, and then low speed. A lot of these Pokemon are slow. However, these stats are very, very good. 130 base HP is remarkably bulky. 140 base attack is very powerful. That's almost as high as Landorus Therian form. And then good defense as well. So this Pokemon is, I'm going to say this Pokemon, without even seeing anything else about it, is good. In terms of moves, it gets Play Rough, High Horsepower, Headlong Rush, which is, I think, like a 120 base power close combat in the main, like, this is basically ground type close combat. It gets Fire, Thunder, and Ice Punch, which is a huge deal. Giga Impact, Stone Edge, Play Rough, and then that's it. Does it get Double Edge? Double Edge as well. So, that's really, really, really strong. And on top of that, it has 3 very good abilities. So, Guts is the most consistent here with, giving you an attack boost when you are afflicted by a status condition. I don't think this is accurate, though. I don't think Guts activates on Sleep. And I don't think it activates on Freeze either, but I guess it's not really relevant. A Nerve is a good utility ability if you want to play, like, if you don't think there's a lot of status and you want to run, like, an Assault Vest set, then I think a Nerve is good. And then Bulletproof is a really cool move because it protects you from all of these moves. So in certain metagames, like Aura Sphere, Bullet Seed's been, I'll call it moves that have been used before. Aura Sphere, Bullet Seed, Energy Ball, Gyro Ball, Ice, no. Mud Bombs on a Maxmon doesn't really count. Pollen Puff has been used before. Pyro Ball's been good before. Rock Blast good situationally. Rock Wrecker's been used a couple times. Shadow Ball and Sludge Bomb are the big ones. So, and then Seed Bomb as well. But Shadow Ball, Sludge Bomb, and Weather Ball I think are 3 really big attacks. So you're already immune to Shadow Ball and you resist Sludge Bomb. So it's probably not amazing on this Mon, but in certain conditions it can be a very powerful ability. So what you have with Ursaluna is a Pokemon with very good stats. It's probably a Pokemon that does well in like Trick Room. When I look at this Mon, I think if this were like a similar format to when Generation 8 first came out and there was a lot of kind of like Trick Room Pokemon, Conkeldurr was good, and Ursaluna gives me similar vibes. Now, it depends a lot on the final move pool, like if it has priority moves, if it has, you know, whatever, but I think that it's a Pokemon that, obviously the gut set is really strong. I'm just going to quickly look at Ursaring and see. I don't think, it shouldn't get any priority moves, but maybe there's something here that I missed, since we can imagine this is pretty decent representation. Yeah, it doesn't look like anything. Yawn is a good utility move, Belly Drum, oh my god. Yeah, so anyway, when I look at Ursaluna, I see a Pokemon with very, very wide range of applications. Guts allows it to be Flame Orb or Toxic Orb. Flame Orb is better, though. And be a super strong physical attacker, especially a Breaker and Trick Room. A Nerve and Bulletproof are also good abilities as well. You can run Flame Orb, I wouldn't run Choice Band on a Pokemon like this, but you could run Salt Vest, you could run Citrus Berry, you could run a Resistance Berry like Chopal or... I'm blanking on what the fairy one is called, or it's not the Cobra, or Pasho. Wow, I'm really forgetting what they're called. Roselia Berry, etc., etc. So I think there's a lot you can do with this Pokemon. The stats are really flexible, where you can use it in Tailwind if you want. You can use it in Trick Room. You can give it you can try to make it bulky and have it just function outside of all this. It has Taunt, which is really nice in order to stop like Trick Room from going up, or it can be a counter Trick Room on. I think it's a great Pokemon, and I would definitely expect to see this in a limited metagame. Basculegia is now a Pokemon that I was super excited for personally, and the stats actually, the Pokemon of the different forms have different stats. So, Water Ghost is really cool when it comes to typing. It's Jellicent's typing, which is another Pokemon that was good at the beginning of Sword and Shield. It has 3 good abilities. Oh, right, Rattle. So, Rattle gives you a speed boost when you're intimidated now. It's not really relevant. It hasn't been relevant in Sword and Shield because the users of it are like Persian, Magikarp, Sudowoodo, Dunsparce, Granbull. there's no good users of it, basically, in Sword and Shield, so I forgot that it did this. But yeah, you basically, Rattle is a very good ability. However, Adaptability is really, really, really broken, and then Mold Breaker can be useful as well. Like, Mold Breaker will allow you to attack around, like, Disguise. It will allow you to attack around Storm Drain, stuff like that. Sturdy, so that can all be useful. Let's look at the stats next. So we already know Water Ghost is good typing. Really high base HP. Pretty good attack, I guess. Okay, this looks like the better one to me. Let's look at the differences. Same HP, lower attack, same defense, higher special attack. Okay, this is a special attack, this is a physical attacker, same special defense, same speed. So the physical attack is probably going to be better, but maybe actually with Rattle, the special attacking one can be good as well. That's a very high base HP stat. 120 is very good. 112 is solid. It's not good, but with adaptability, it'll still do damage. Defenses are a bit below average, but with the high base HP, you can kind of get away with that. And then once again, it's super slow. So, well, not super slow, but it's too slow to really be good. So Rattle is definitely looking appealing here. This looks like it wants you to use it as a mixed attacker, or like it can be either a mixed attacker or a regular attacker. It's interesting that the different forms have different stats as well, which is cool. So let's look at the moves. Hex, Shadow Ball, Wave Crash, okay? Interesting. This looks like it might be a recoil move that raises speed. This is one of those moves I'm not going to be able to speak super specifically on because we don't know how that would translate exactly, but yeah. Ice Fang, Ominous Wind, Calm Mind Rest, Icy Wind, Shadow Ball, Aqua Tail, Psychic. Okay, so basically with this didn't give us that much. Let me see. Hang on, let me look. Aqua Jet, that's a big one. Final Gambit. Okay, that's actually extraordinarily relevant. Hang on. Okay, it's all coming. It's all starting to make sense to me. Okay, so of the Pokemon we've seen so far, Superpower. Okay. Endeavor. Okay. Scale Shot. Flip Turn. I think this thing could absolutely be good. So I think that you have a couple options with this. Of the Pokemon we've covered so far, I think Ursaluna is like the best in a vacuum, but I think if one of these Pokemon that we've covered so far were to be useful in the current like competitive format, I think Basculegion has the best shot. Maybe not in the current one because of Alecki and Rillaboom, but I think there's some interesting things here. So if we assume this gets all of Basculin's moves, but more, then you have a couple really interesting moves. The ones I want to call out are Aqua Jet, which is very useful. Soak is a good utility moves. Final Gambit we're going to talk about in a bit, and then like Head Smash, Double Edge. Those are really strong coverage moves, and then the last one is Superpower, which is also a good coverage move. So, and then of course, and Flip Turn as well. So, I think a Rattled Basculegion could be really strong. I also think, like I said, Adaptability is strong. I don't think you ever really run Mold Breaker because the other abilities are better. But with a set like this, you'll probably always run Water move, Ghost move, Aqua Jet, +1. So your Water move can be Liquidation if you want to do damage, if you want to be like Choice Band plus Adaptability, or if you want to be Assault Vest Rattled, or if you want to be Assault Vest Adaptability. Those are all fine. Water Ghost, again, is pretty good typing, and so it's interesting because you're immune to Fake Out. What I think is really interesting is that this Pokemon is insane base HP, and its under-level form gets access to Final Gambit. And so what that allows you to do is still train it in speed and attack like you would traditionally, but also have Final Gambit as an option on like Assault or Choice Scarf sets, and I guess Choice Band and Choice Specs as well. But what that allows you to do is basically say, all right, like I can use this Pokemon regularly, or if I take a KO with it, like if I'm up in Pokemon, I can use it to like maintain a lead, or I can use it to eliminate a threat. It's very interesting, and when you consider it's immune to Fake Out, and it could get a speed boost with Rattled, I think it could be really, really strong. So I think this is a super cool Pokemon. It's not going to be as flexible as Ursaluna, but I think it could be really interesting. The moves are especially interesting to me, and the abilities are good. I'm glad they didn't give it higher base attack and special attack, because I think it might have been too strong. But I think it seems like a well-designed Pokemon that can really shine under the right conditions, so I think it's cool. 3 left. Sneasler. Sneasler is interesting. So Fighting and Poison is not good typing. I would like to rag on it more, but the truth is that Toxicroak is typing and has been good in certain positions. However, the thing about Sneasler is, or the thing about Toxicroak is that it has Dry Skin, which is a super good ability. So let's see how the stats are. Good attack, 130. Good speed, our first like actually fast Pokemon, which is interesting. So, yeah, so that's definitely giving it more to play with. It's frail. It's kind of like Weavile, right? Like 80 HP, 130 attack, bad defenses, and then 120 speed. Although the physical defense is bad, but the HP and special defense are both fine. So this clearly wants to be a fast and frail physical attacker. With Poison Jab, Drain Punch, Iron Tail's coverage, Shadow Claw's coverage, neither of those are very good. Power Shift. Interesting. I didn't actually remember this. Not going to be useful in a Pokemon like this. Close Combat. Basically, with a Pokemon like this, it was Dire Claw. With a Pokemon like this, I think you're running Dire Claw, Close Combat, Protect, and then 1. Maybe Swords Dance, maybe Taunt, maybe Poison Jab, maybe a coverage move. I don't think it's super interesting. You just don't have a lot of flexibility here, and so whether or not it's good really depends on the format. In order for this Pokemon to be good, it would have to be a format where it was faster than pretty much everything because it doesn't have the bulk to hold up in a format with like Regieleki, Rillaboom, and that kind of thing. Yeah, and I mean, obviously, it would have to have decent offensive typing. It would also depend on the move pool. I can't really look at the underlevel moves because it evolves from Hisuian Sneasel, which I don't really have that much to say. The abilities, I didn't talk about them too much at all. Pressure's not super good, and then Poison Touch is okay. It's okay, like, especially when you consider Close Combat and Dire Claw make contact. I think it's not inherently bad, it's just not flexible, so there's not that much to say about it, if that makes sense. I think it could be good in a format where there's strong fairies and strong steel types, which again are two of the best typings in the game, if not the single two best. This probably are the two single best typings in the game. So I think that in those conditions, Sneasler could be good. But yeah, really, it can't exist in a format with Regieleki, in my opinion. But it is strong into like Rillaboom, Incineroar. It has good typing into those. It's good into Xerneas. It's not good into Zacian. Yeah, it's just not bulky enough to do well if it's not outspeeding things, I think. Next up is Overquill. So Overquill is interesting. I like the design of it a lot. Let's look at the stats. Good HP, good attack, good defense, bad special, or like below average special defense, and then slow once again. So once again, this is probably an issue where the speed makes it really difficult to use. The rest of the stats are fine. I would say above average attack, slightly above average physical defense, slightly below average special defense, and then speed. The typing is interesting. This is the same typing as Alolan Muck, where it is only weak to ground. The thing is that I don't think these stats are better than Alolan Muck, and with that in mind, I don't know why you would ever use this over Alolan Muck, except that the abilities are worthwhile. So let's talk about the abilities. So again, Intimidate is one of the single best abilities in the entire game, if not the single best ability in terms of widely distributed abilities. And so Intimidate, it makes a Pokemon, it definitely helps Pokemon a lot. Additionally, you can use it on rain teams as a poison type attacker that does well into the Grass-type Pokemon that many times Water-type struggle with. I would never use Poison Point. I would say Swift Swim or Intimidate are your abilities. Barb Barrage is a good ability. I think this might be a signature. It is a signature, so yeah, Barb Barrage is super solid, especially under the right conditions. It's a physical attacker that's physical. It might get Flip Turn. It's kind of hard to say in this game since it doesn't get... The only Water-type move it gets is Aqua Tail, so I don't want to judge it based on that because... Let's look at actually regular Qwilfish, although it's slightly different. Oh, I guess it's not really it's not a water type though, so maybe I shouldn't be looking at that. But yeah, it would probably get physical dark type moves as well. So far this looks kind of like a coverage issue. It might be able to be a decent support Pokemon because it's got good defensive typing, but yeah, actually that might be interesting. Maybe you run like Assault Vest, Intimidate, and then you run like Icy Wind, and then like Snarl, Icy Wind, Snarl. Where's the poison? Barb Barrage, and then Dark Move. Like physical dark move, like Foul Play, for example. Not Foul Play, you're with Intimidate. But yeah, like Throat Chop or Knockoff or whatever. Maybe it gets Knockoff, right? Something like that I think could be good. And that way you kind of use it more as a support Pokemon. This Pokemon like has the... To me, it like... Okay, maybe it's just based on the design. The design makes it look like it wants to be like a really strong physical attacker, but it actually isn't terribly set up. It has good... Like, it's not terribly set up to be a support Pokemon since it only has one weakness. So, yeah, I think Assault Vest, pair this thing with like a Rillaboom to give it some recovery, or maybe you run Protect plus Black Sludge and drop Icy Wind or Snarl, and run Poison Dark support, probably drop Icy Wind, or I don't know, maybe not, I don't know. Yeah, so I think it could be good as a support Pokemon. It's probably not going to be a sweeper most of the time, unless certain formats, certain formats allow for it, but, yeah, in general, I think it could be okay as a support Pokemon. Which then leaves us with just one Pokemon left, which is an Amorous, though it does have two forms. So, I mean, this thing should make you nervous, right? It's a new genie, which is, for anyone who's played competitive Pokemon, cause for a lot of concern. On top of that, it has the single best typing of any genie, which is Fairy Flying. Now, I don't know if Fairy Flying are actually good together. It's probably not better than Ground Flying as a combination, but in terms of a secondary type in a vacuum, Fairy is, like, the single best type in the game, right? So, giving a genie with the best type in the game... Oh, interesting. It's always female. The other genies are always male. So, it's very interesting. And it's also pretty radically different between the two forms. So, Healer is really inconsistent, but it can be useful under the right conditions. The issue is that Healer doesn't heal itself. Contrary, however, is a very powerful, very, very powerful ability that is like, I mean, it's won Worlds on Tornadus when it was the only year that it was, like, legal when Acrobatics Flying Gym was legal in Gen 5, 2013, Tornadus won Worlds. And then Overcoat is very good as well because Overcoat is a super, super useful utility ability because not only does it protect you from sand and hail chip damage, you're not affected by Rage Powder or Sleep Powder, which is a pretty massive deal to say the least. Next, let's look at the stats. So let's talk about the Incarnate form first. This is very similar to traditional Genies. It is a strong special attacker with average HP, I would say below average defenses, a 115 attack stat, a strong special attack stat, and it's slightly slower than Thundurus and Tornadus. So it's kind of in the middle between Landorus Incarnate and the Thundurus and Tornadus Incarnate. Because those are 108, right? And this is 106. Or those are already 108. I think those are 110. So yeah, it's basically just barely slower. It's got a really good special attack stat and strong, like a good physical attack stat that's still usable when you consider Contrary, and then good HP as well. So that's interesting. What's very interesting is when you look at the Therian form. So the Therian form is the one with Overcoat. So Overcoat, you have base 46 speed, so this is always going to be pretty much used in Trick Room with very good bulk, 100 special defense, 110 defense, 74 HP, and the same offensive stats. So this is basically a slow Trick Room attacker that isn't affected by Amoonguss, which is very valuable. If we look at the moves, it's kind of hard to say for sure, but Iron Defense is very interesting. Probably not useful most of the time. Moonblast, the single best fairy type attack. Springtide Storm is also interesting. It is a special attack, which is like seems to be pretty strong as well. The low accuracy probably compensates, but 95 for this game could be as much as like 110 in the regular game, maybe even 120. So this basically is an Omni Boost move. So it can boost all of its stats for 3 turns, or if it's in Therian form, it can lower the target's defenses for 3 turns, which is just a permanent drop in the main series game. So this is a very, very, very powerful Pokemon. And this move is really, really strong as well. The accuracy is a little bit spooky, but even if you don't want to use this, you have Moonblast, so you don't even need to use it. And it might have Play Rough as well. It's, again, moves we're kind of speculating on, so yeah. Power Shift is interesting, though not necessarily good here. Really good coverage moves. So Mystical Fire, Sludge Bomb, Earth Power, Dazzling Gleam. These are all really good coverage moves. Again, it does get Play Rough, and then we don't even know like its full moveset yet. So, yeah, to say the least, this is probably the single most broken Pokemon that they've released. And if this thing becomes legal and competitive, I honestly really don't know. I actually really don't know. I think it could be very, very strong. Especially, this doesn't get that many flying moves. I don't even see Air Slash here. It doesn't learn a single flying move despite being flying type, so if this thing were to, God forbid, get Hurricane like Tornadus, which I don't think it will because of how the Genies typically work, but if it were to get Hurricane, it could be bad, and it probably gets super... It has a chance of getting superpower since all three of the other Genies get superpower, so, yeah, to say the least, this thing is going to be strong. It's going to be very, very, very strong, pretty much regardless of the format, and, yeah, it has a lot of options, so... and this is with a pared down move pool as well. So even with less moves available, it still looks very powerful. So, yeah, out of all the Pokemon, this is the most likely to be a problem. So, anyway, let me know what you think in the comments down below of the new Pokemon, what your favorites are, what your least favorites are, what you're most worried about. And yeah, next up we'll probably talk about the Galarian forms, or the Hisuian forms of the new Pokemon. So, thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.